I'm so excited to share the stage today with two gentlemen who I have the pleasure of knowing for several years, and I've been able to watch their amazing work up close and personal here in the city. And I'm really excited to have them both share their stories with everyone today and inspire you all of ways to influence the future of urban agriculture. Coy McKinney obtained a history degree from the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, and a law degree from the David A. Clark School of Law at the University of the District of Columbia in 2012. Despite this educational background, Coy found his passion in agriculture, and since 2013 and 2014, respectively, Coy has helped coordinate a community garden in Southwest DC and teach principles of urban agriculture to high school students at Friendship Technology Preparatory Academy. And now there's Xavier. Xavier Brown is the Urban Waters Ambassador and Director of Community to Career Partnerships in the Office of the President at the University of the District of Columbia. He's UDC's boots on the ground in supporting the environmentally focused Anacostia High School redesign and driving UDC's overall education partnership efforts with the Department of Energy and the Environment, the schools in the Anacostia High School feeder pattern, and other schools in Ward 8. Big job. The District of Columbia Public Schools, the community leaders, and residents in Ward 8 as well. Xavier also serves as the Anacostia ambassadors in the Urban Waters Federal Partnership. Before UDC, Xavier founded Soilful, which is an organization dedicated to reconnecting African Americans to their agricultural roots, and co-founded Black Dirt Farm Collective, an organization dedicated to supporting emerging Black farmers and growers in the Mid-Atlantic. Ooh, these guys are very impressive. I think you'll all agree with me. And so we would love to start with having both of our guests today share their stories. We'll also have room for questions in between. And so I'd love to have Coy, if you will, tell us a little bit about your involvement in this work.
Yeah, so this program, this event is kind of I don't know, it's humbling and it's exciting because both of the hosts of this event have sponsored or have inspired me, and I've worked with everyone that's putting on this event. So Courtney, she used to be a teacher at the school that I teach at. We shared a classroom at one point. I got my first gardening gig with Lola with City Blossoms when I had just graduated from law school, and I was trying to figure out this whole urban ag thing. And then as I got into the urban ag field, I was trying to see who else was doing stuff in DC, and Xavier Brown, he's been doing it since as long, even before I started. And he's always been a sense of inspiration for me. So it's kind of crazy that all four of us are together for this event.
The best of the best.
Right on. So should I go into my presentation?
Yeah, we'd love that.
Right on. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so as Lola said, I teach principles of agriculture to high school students at Friendship Tech Prep in Congress Heights, DC. I also help run a community garden in Southwest DC. And so, yeah, as Lola mentioned in the bio, my journey hasn't been very straightforward. I got a history degree, thought I don't know, might be a history professor. Then I thought I might be a lawyer. And as soon as I got to law school, I was like, no, definitely don't want to be a lawyer. And so I started exploring what I actually wanted to do. And I knew I wanted to do something that related to the earth and justice. And I figured that like getting to the source of what connects us all, food, might be might be it. And so I got interested in urban agriculture. I helped start the UDC Garden Club at UDC. I did a work study program while I was in law school and spent a lot of time up at UDC's Beltsville Research Farm. And after graduating, I chose not to do or take the bar, and I got a spring internship with City Blossoms. And City Blossoms is still around, and they do excellent work with kids. I didn't even know that there was a niche for people interested in urban gardening and kids, and I learned that from them. After doing the spring internship with City Blossoms, I was a compost cabbie for about 7 months, and I didn't want to go back home during the Christmas break and have like nothing to really show to my mom, who allowed me to like not take the bar and pursue this urban ag thing. So I took what I learned from City Blossoms and I emailed all the principals in DC and said, hey, look, this is what I'm interested in. This is my experience. Is there a spot for me? And Friendship Tech Prep bit and hired me. And since then, I've been teaching kids how to grow food. I thought I was gonna, be like a support staff person to like maybe the biology or the history teacher, but I guess there's a teaching shortage and they threw me right in the classroom. So ever since then, I've been teaching. And yeah, so I teach 10th graders and 12th graders how to grow their own food. We talk about industrial agriculture and the differences between that and agroecology. And really, I learned the term afroecology from Xavier, which is more like a Black-centered form of agroecology. We talked about food justice, food deserts. The school is located in the food desert, so it's very relevant to the students. And, it's been rewarding to see the kids because the kids know what's up. Maybe they don't have the language to describe what's going on, but they see what's going on in their neighborhood. So to give them that language and to give them a lens through which to see that and then to actually make changes has been really rewarding to me. So the kids also learn about composting and beekeeping. And I'm going to show some photos and tell some stories about, what keeps me going later on in the slide. So yeah, I'm also, again, the coordinator of a community garden in Southwest, which has also been a way to engage with the youth. We've literally seen kids grow up in the garden. Some of those kids who I didn't know ended up being my students. And so that's been very fun to see. And some of the kids come back to the garden as adults, check in on it, see that we're still doing things. And so that's really great. And so that garden, this has all kind of happened when urban ag was hitting in DC. And we saw a lot of community gardens opening, but they were just really like individual plots. So maybe 30 people would get a plot at a so-called community garden, which didn't seem more like a garden in a community rather than an actual community garden. So we have two sections. We have one section for individual plots, and then we have a section that's open to the public. And that section is open twice a week, April through October, and we just invite anyone to come in and help us water and harvest, and we give out the food. We've done CSAs, and it's been a really great way to really ground myself in the neighborhood, and some of the best friends I've made in the city have come through that garden. It's also been an organizing tool as things have popped off in my neighborhood and in the city to get like-minded people together and start organizing. So it's been a very powerful thing to literally rooting me in my neighborhood and in my city. Yeah, so again, this is just like a throwback photo. So I've been at Tech Prep since 2014. Xavier's been up to the school 3 times. I make sure I get Xavier up there whenever I can. This is a photo of Courtney when she was a teacher, when we shared a classroom. So we were growing cotton as a part of a history project. And I had some leftover cotton, which she used and made some pillows out of. And then this bottom right photo is once I got in the classroom, I knew the kids didn't want to hear from me all the time. So I had to get them out of the classroom if I wanted them to really get the impact of urban agriculture. So where did I take them? City Blossoms. And so that photo in the bottom right is us my first year, and we went to the Marion Intergenerational Community Garden. So yeah, something that really keeps me excited, in addition to seeing the young people learn and hearing their ideas and having them shape the future in our part of town, is being the first person to actually do this at the school. So I'm literally shaping the earth around me. So this top left photo is what the garden started out. Maybe had like 10 4x4 garden plots in a small little fenced off area in the backfield. And over time, we got some grants, did some work, put in some serious sweat equity. And now we've got a mini orchard. We've got 20 plots. The plots are much larger. We've got rain barrels. We've got composting. And so to see that or to take part of that and shape that really keeps me going. And I want to see how much we can do. And this photo is kind of a testament to that. So we planted this tree not knowing what it would turn into. And 7 years later, it's now one of the focal points of our garden. And what's also really interesting about this is that one of the students who helped plant this tree is now a teacher at Tech Prep. And so when he came back to the garden and saw the garden, he was amazed because it looked completely different than when he was a student there. And so, yeah, one of the first things I also did was I didn't have a teaching background. So I kind of used what inspired me and hoped that that would also inspire the students. So one thing that inspired me was basil pesto. I knew nothing about it. I spent 2.5 years in Italy, and the host family that I stayed with, the mother of that family, she made basil pesto, and she found out that I liked it, and she would make it almost every night, and I never got sick of it. So one of the things I did my first year was like, okay, I'm gonna teach these kids about basil pesto. So one of the first seeds I got was a whole bunch of basil. The school has a greenhouse on the third floor, which was my office for a while. And so the first plant that we grew in mass quantities was basil. I taught the kids how to make pesto. They didn't like it when I made it, but it had a completely different flavor when they made it, and they loved it when they made it. And so from the first year to just even last year, we've been making basil pesto. This last year, the kids, my seniors, they decided to come up with Basil Week. And so for a whole week, they came up with different recipes that used basil from the garden, and then they marketed it, and then they sold it to their classmates as a little fundraiser. So seeing the kids talk about basil, uh, come up with different recipes for basil has been really exciting. And the alumni still send me messages when I post stories on Instagram saying, "You still growing basil? You got to do something else other than basil." But some of them are actually growing basil plants themselves because they liked what they made with it. And so that's really what it's all about. And yeah, taking the kids on different field trips to indoor farms, whether it's in real life or virtually, planting trees. Just this last year, we planted 10 trees with Casey trees with the 10th graders. So they'll see those trees as they develop, and hopefully they'll come back as alumni and see how they played a role in improving the local environment there. This moment was especially important to me. It's maybe hard to see, but this is even before, this is before Zoom was really popping, but I had taught the students about Black farmers and their whole plight and how they had been discriminated against. And so they knew the history about it. And this guy we're interviewing is Gary Grant, who was one of the guys who organized one of the first lawsuits against the USDA based on discrimination. So the kids, after studying the history of Black farmers for almost a month. They got a chance to interview him via, I guess it was Google Meet back then. And so to me, that it was really important. This is also in Courtney's classroom. Yeah, and so, part of my own growth, because I'm learning as I go, is to try different things. And so at one point we had chickens at the school. We used a program called Rent a Coop, which made it really easy. They would bring the coop and the chickens. All we had to do was keep them alive. We did that. Then we got word spread, and a parent actually brought in 4 chicks. And so we took care of them for a while. But the kids had to learn the hard way that the environment is no joke. So we actually went through 8 different chickens trying to keep them alive, but the wildlife kept on getting them. One time it was an eagle, and then there was like we still never figured out what it actually was, but something was killing them but wasn't eating them. But this was all a lesson in how to take care of livestock. And we got eggs, we made omelets along the way, and they're constantly asking me, when are we getting the chickens back? And I'm like, well, we got to get a serious contraption before we bring them back. And one funny story that kids still joke around about is that one day the chickens actually escaped out of the coop, and there were some neighborhood cats who I thought maybe the cats and the chickens were going to have some beef and like attack each other, but they seemed to be in cahoots. So the chickens escaped at night. I came in the morning and didn't see the chickens. So I was like, where'd they go? We ran back the cameras and saw that the cats and the chickens were running around in the back together at like 2 o'clock in the morning. This is normally when chickens are up in the coop. So anyway, on the camera, we actually see the chickens escape out the gate, and they're strutting up and down MLK. And I can only imagine people walking down the street early in the morning seeing chickens on MLK. Thankfully, one of our students was quick thinking and said he suggested to call animal control, and they were found and returned. So it was all it all ended happily. But yeah, some of the jokes that the kids were telling about the chickens running down MLK and where they ended up at the carry out or whatever, it was hilarious. Yeah, we've done beekeeping. I didn't know anything about beekeeping, but wanting to explore that with the students, we've been learning together. We've had 3 different honey harvests, and it's just been great to see the kids get out of their comfort zones and try beekeeping and be successful at it, and really take an interest in it. Some kids take more of an interest than others, but still, it's beautiful to see them want to get in the hives, know what they're talking about, talk with other professionals about it, and then reap the benefits of their work by actually harvesting honey. And then the last thing that really is I don't know, is the most inspiring part of all this is seeing the inspiration or seeing the awe that I have for nature passed down to the kids. So this past year, I've been trying to take the kids camping since I've been there, and we finally pulled it off last year. The kids had to turn in their phones. It was just for one night, but the way that they connected with each other and with nature was beautiful. I got real emotional when at the closing circle when they were talking about how much fun they had, how they didn't think they were gonna survive without their phones, and how they didn't think they were going to be able to go to sleep because some of them listen to music or watch shows, but they really all connected with each other. They weren't all friends, and this is the senior class who had been together for a while, and they weren't that large, but still, they had different groups and cliques. But on the camping trip, they all connected with each other. We had a campfire. We went rafting. We had a ropes course. We got to see the stars at night, and so it really set in for them, and I could see the awe in some of their eyes, which was gratifying, which was, the reason why I wanted to do the camping trip so bad. Another thing that's been really inspiring is we've started an annual trip to Great Falls to do the Billy Goat Trail. It's become like an intro for the 10th graders. So ninth grade, the students don't choose an academy. And then their 10th grade year, they have to choose either to be in the Academy of Urban Ecology or the Academy of Engineering. And so then that 10th grade year is their introduction to the academy. We take them to Great Falls. And word has spread about the hike and the Billy Goat Trail in particular, and the excitement that the kids get around the trip and telling, the juniors and seniors, telling the 10th graders, like, what to expect and how to be prepared. It's great. It's become like a cultural thing for our school. And then, this last photo in the top right corner, we went to the well, which is right around the corner from our school. And they've got, similar programming. And so it's great that the kids see what's going on at our school, but they can also see it in the neighborhood, and they can see a different way of doing it, get some ideas, and then bring that back to our school. So all in all, I never thought I'd be a teacher. I never thought I'd be doing urban ag, but now I can't think of doing anything else. And so, yeah, I love it as much as, I've got gray hairs named after some students, but I wouldn't change it for anything else.
Oh my gosh. Coy, thank you so much for sharing that story. And you are a natural. Honestly, I wish you were my teacher when I was in high school. I don't know I don't know anyone who's had a teacher like you to offer all these opportunities. And I gotta say kudos to Friendship for also having this program, like hosting this class, continuing to sustain it over the years. But it's mostly probably because of the work that you've done. And so, and I just gotta say, man, the stories about Rent a Coop. I also had Rent a Coop at the school where I last worked. And those, each year, the chickens were different, right? And they had different personalities. And one year I got some real runners. And the kids would let them out of the coop. We had a closed garden. And I'd have to run around the garden catching them. And somebody one day just like filmed me outside of one of the school windows above, just watching me dive for these chickens and miss over and over again. And yeah, that'll go down in history. So do I recommend chickens for schools? Oh, absolutely. Like they will humble you. Oh my goodness. Gosh, I have lots of questions that I think we'll share over this period of time that we're together. And I definitely encourage questions from the chat as well. But something that I thought about while you were talking, Coy, is that you have created community in two places that there's probably a lot of overlap, right? Like being in a school creates community, and creating a community garden and working in concert with other folks creates community. And I'm curious about, over the years, like what have been some of the best practices you've found in community engagement? Because I think a lot of educators who want to lead urban agriculture or any kind of gardening program think about building that community so that folks feel invested. Some of the best practices, and also just things maybe not to do when you're trying to build community in either location.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's something I've had to learn as I've gone. And really, it's give the people what they want. And so, have free stuff, have free samples, but then listen to what they want. So the students are keyed in, and I used to ask them for ideas, and then I would shut down some of their ideas because, oh, that's crazy, that's not going to work. And then I started to listen to them and do what they suggested, and those were the ones that were the most popular. So I would say give the people what they want and be consistent. If you're inconsistent, they won't. You're unreliable, and so then they can't rely on you. They don't know when you're going to be, what's going to happen. But if you're reliable and you're giving them what they want, they have reasons to come back. Also, making things fun, having some music, having some activities, um, doing something engaging that's not just boring or I don't know. Having people interact with each other as well, I think is important.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, it is hard sometimes to make everyone happy, but I think it's like even a fraction of getting closer to what they want is so important. I'm curious about, a lot of school programs have issues with sustainability of their school garden programs or of their agriculture programs. And I'm curious about how Friendship does it. How do y'all do it? How do you know you have a job next year?
Yeah, it was. I definitely didn't know if I would early on. But I think Aussie actually did a good job in the beginning. They had the school garden grant, which would pay, it would provide some money for items and tools and stuff, but the bulk of the money that you would get was actually for salary, which I think is the key point because I've seen a lot of schools have like the biology teacher also be the school garden coordinator or the chemistry teacher also be the school garden coordinator, and that weighs down. I mean, it's enough to
Yeah,
teach one subject. I mean, I just teach agriculture and I get weighed down by it. So I think if
yeah,
you can just have one person do that one job, you're gonna be way more successful than asking someone to juggle two things. So I think the Aussie School Garden Grant early on helped me. It provided me enough time to prove that the program deserved to be funded. And so now I think it's like it's part of the school. So like I think you know it's become such an integral part of the school that I can't see the school moving on without it. But
right.
yeah, definitely Aussie helped out in the beginning.
Yeah. No, and if anyone's not local, OSSI is DC's State Department of Education, which had a Healthy Schools grant that lasted a few years in order to support, yeah, school garden coordinators, they were called, like anyone who's basically staffing a school garden. So that was unique here in DC for sure. And then I guess my last question before we move on to Xavier is, so what is your pesto recipe?
Yeah, lots of basil, lots of cheese, garlic, some salt. I know it. You're supposed to. What is the? There's something you're supposed to add that I. Oh, olive oil. I know you're supposed to add pine nuts, but they're just too expensive for me. So I go without
Yeah.
the pine nuts, and I just use salt for seasoning or salt to until it tastes good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Making me hungry. We've got a lot of basil we need to process. Cool. All right, y'all. So thank you, Coy, so much for sharing that. We're gonna come back to talk more in a moment, but I'd like to have Xavier also share the work that he's been doing at Anacostia Senior High School. So yeah, Xavier, tell us all about your experience, what you've been up to, and the amazing things you look forward to.
Sure. Yeah, no, Corey, thank you, Lola and Corey and Courtney for having me. Corey, I actually remember when you all had the groundbreaking for that Southwest Garden. I think you all got a grant from Home Depot or somebody. I remember that vividly. It was like I remember the orange for some reason stands out to me. It's like yeah. You could probably talk more about, but I remember that's when Josh and I first started with DC Parks and Recreation, and we were like figuring out the whole like garden thing, and that garden in particular threw people at DPR for a loop because you all got like outside funding, and it was like a whole thing about how DC is. So no, I definitely remember that. And Lola, obviously you've been like one of the leaders of urban ag in the city for like a very very long time. So it's very cool to share space with both of you all. And my name is Xavier Brown. I wear multiple hats, um, and so at any time I can like take one out of my back pocket and put it on and swap it out. So I do a bunch of stuff, but this right here is kind of the newest project and some of the most rewarding work that I'm doing currently. is working with high school students, primarily 11th and 12th graders at Anacostia High School in Washington, D.C., probably a mile, I guess that's maybe a mile, half mile north of where Coy is, so we're kind of neighbors to a certain degree. Um, I work for the University of District of Columbia called UDC. We have a partnership with Anacostia where we have several programs. We have an early college program where kids, and by the time they graduate, they start in ninth grade, and by the time they graduate in 12th grade, they'll have their associate's degree. Um, we have that program. We have a summer internship program that focuses on the African American history and the environment, and students go on multiple field trips. And at the end of the summer, they write a book. And so the students from Anacostia have written and published 2 books so far. And then during the school year, we do like a very deep dive into hydroponics gardening. And over the years, we've been slowly trying to build like a farm cooperative or a garden cooperative amongst the students at Anacostia. And the name that the students came up with is called 16th Street Greens. Anacostia is located at 1601 16th Street Southeast. A friend of mine made this logo for the students. When they saw it, they loved it, and they were like, "Hey, we call it 16th Street Greens. Kind of respect this." So that's who I guess we are. I'm a part of the team too, so that's who we are. And so the presentation that I put together is really a presentation that I help the students put together. So you'll see kind of things from somewhat of my lens, but some also their lens as well. So it's like a mashup. And so kind of part of my role is I'm half teacher, half mentor, another piece kind of orchestrator. But we always try to pass on like DC history. So there was this elder that we wanted to, thought was important to kind of teach the students about. He died a couple years ago. His name was Babo Duno, but he had this quote that there's no culture without agriculture. And I was really we had kind of kicked off our series with this quote and trying to tie the students into like this concept of agriculture and culture, right? And kind of getting the students getting their brains percolating around, what does that actually mean, right? And so looking at their clothes, looking at their favorite foods, just like Toy mentioned, he lived in Italy for 2 years. And without, that basil pesto is a part of that Italian culture, right? And without agriculture, you're not going to really have that, and I'm sure I'm not sure where everybody's from. I saw some folks from South Carolina and other places, Montgomery County. Everybody, whatever their ethnicity, religion, whatever, there's a food that kind of is important to your culture. And whatever those ingredients that go into that food, they're grown by somebody somewhere. Same thing with our clothes, right? It could be cotton, it could be hemp, it could be linen, flax for linen. All that stuff is agriculture, and all those things. It could be indigo, it could be dye, all types of stuff. It is a part of people's culture. So we kind of like started from there, and then we that was like this is like the initial seed that we plant with the students, just to get them kind of talking and thinking and asking questions and that type of stuff. And so this is who we are. This is who they are. So this is kind of what they say. They're a group of Anacostia students. They're 12th graders, and we kind of at the beginning of each. This is our. I've been in this role for I think this is my 4th or 5th school year. And each year we've kind of been able to build off the next year, right? So this is the most recent group of 12th graders. All these kids that you're going to see in these slides, they just recently graduated in May, and each group kind of builds on what the previous group did. So this group right here, they made like $2,000 or a little bit less than $2,000 over the school year, growing and selling microgreen salads. And so kind of the task that I kind of approach every group of students with to say, hey, this is what 2025 class did. Can you all top them and expand on what they did? Kind of take what they did and add your own like sauce, add your own spin to it. And so when I first started at Anacostia High School, I was given like a vacant classroom, an underutilized classroom that didn't have anything in it. And so we essentially turned the vacant classroom into a hydroponics laboratory. And you all will see like pictures of what we did. So I myself and some guys that drove the equipment to DC from Arkansas. We literally built stuff. We built the hydroponics tower by hand, and we built everything else by hand. We brought in refrigerators, and we really like put it together. So it's been really an amazing experience. So this is actually one of Corey's students right here. She joined us for the summertime with the pink headphones. You see her in the bottom left, Corey. She joined us. And so so the way our lab is set up is that our program is set up so there's an internship that happens every day, or the internship runs through the school year. We meet in the afternoons from about 1 to around 4 p.m. And so it's like a 3-hour block that we work. We do some working, we do some kind of work around, do some growing, we do some harvesting, we do a whole bunch of taste testing because, you know, once you grow stuff, you're more inclined to eat it. So it's crazy taste testing. And we do some work, kind of like some pedagogy, kind of work around understanding food sovereignty, food justice, food apartheid, and all that type of stuff, right? So kind of making sure they understand those types of stuff. This picture in the upper right, or at least is my upper right-hand corner, is the students. We were trying to figure out, we were putting together a menu. And so we grow like 8 or 9 different varieties of microgreens in these towers right here. And we had the students putting together these salad bowls with, at the bottom, we have bib lettuce, and on the top, we have microgreens. It's like a huge, like a 3-tiered like garnish on top. And then you can add like croutons and stuff. But this conversation right here is like talking to the students about how much would you sell the salad for, right? So you have people talking about, man, we sell it for 20, 25. I'm like, 25 for a salad. We were like 10, so we were like 5. We were like, we give away for free. So it's like, it's a good exercise. One thing I've learned, similar to what Corey said, is that I kind of step back and let them roll with it. I throw the questions out there and kind of let them roll with it. And so at times the process could kind of take forever, you know, because they're going back and forth like $10 is not enough. $15 is too much. Or, you know, answering all the questions. How are we going to accept money? You know, we didn't want to take any cash. How are we going to accept money? And allow them to kind of figure out the entire process from top to bottom, all the way down to, with these particular towers, we doing like some succession planting. And so whenever we harvesting, we have more trays going in. So it's just like on a constant basis. And so they have to time it. Let's say we have an event, like there's a big event in DC called Rooting DC. The students went to Rooting DC and they did an amazing, they sold like $300 worth of salads at Rooting DC. They went crazy, $400 worth of salads. But they had to time our harvest out, you know, up to Rooting DC so we could have the freshest microgreens possible. So we kind of get very granular with that. And there's a lot of trial and error. We definitely lost a lot of microgreens, but it's a fun time. And so this is just, you know, that's kind of represents like the debate process. And this is like one of the towers that we put together that the students use. And then you can see this student right here, she's seating the trays on these hemp pads that we use in the school. And so this is just some more, that's a picture of me just kind of probably trying to get the students to think about something. This is another angle in the upper right-hand corner. We have these mini grow towers where we grow herbs. So we grow sage, we grow basil, we try to grow some indigo in there. And a couple of, I think we grow some fennel in there. So we're playing around with those. In this bottom left-hand corner is our grow tower. This is the tower I was talking about. I helped construct. In this grow tower, it's an automated system, but the students still have to start off the seedlings. You have to clean it. You have to do it. So kind of very involved to a certain degree. And this is where we grow all kind of heads of lettuce out of this system right here. And so we have multiple systems kind of running. We have 3 hydroponic systems running we have 4 hydroponic systems running at the same time in the basement, and it's on the students. You know, we teach the students how to manage all of them. And so this is us right here, or this is them right here. So the first stop before we kind of step out to the community to kind of sell salads, we always start in school. And so these kind of couple pictures right here, this one in the bottom left is the students kind of, we make an announcement at lunchtime, like, hey, at lunch, harvesting, we're selling salads, you know, come meet us on the first floor. and we're making our rounds around school, selling salads, talking to teachers, talking to students, talking to security guards, talking to principal, vice principal, any and everybody who, the students kind of think have money and will spend money with them. So it's like, no rock is like unturned, even visitors that are coming to the school. And so from what I found, just, this experience is like, it's been able to kind of give the students like some confidence. I think being able to grow something from seed, harvest it, put it in a clamshell. They have this cart. You can't really see the cart in the picture, but this cart that has salad dressings and other condiments you can add on there. And so you can kind of ask them like, hey, I want the students come up with crazy dressing, like add some Catalina with some ranch or something like that, which is wild. But that's kind of the vibe they're on, and they shake it up, right? But you could get that type of mixture if you want it, and they come up with names for the salad. So that might be like the Zaya salad, which was a former student of mine. It might be the salad, combination she came up with. But that process over time, you can kind of see the students grow, and the greens are good, similar to what Coy said, like we're in the food apartheid area. So the stuff that Coy's growing, the stuff that we're growing is the best stuff you can get on that side of town, hands down. And that's with or without a grocery store, I believe, I think we have some of the best stuff, so it tastes good. And I think this year we're going to work on developing their own salad dressings. So this is like what they came up with when they're kind of going out talking to people in the community. This is like how they've identified like the problem, and I'm not going to read all of this, but this is how they visualize the problem with like the health outcomes in Ward 8 in DC as opposed to like Ward 3. The youth opportunities, where they're talking about there's a lack of opportunities for youth. And I think you've seen like in Coy's previous slide, how many young people he's worked with over the years that are coming back, and how much of a, like there's so much space for young people to learn and with just the environment and agriculture. And so I think some of the students that I'm working with kind of recognize that, right? Because it's a place where every season is like a blank slate. And so it's like a white sheet of paper, and they're bringing the color to it, right? So they become the artists of what we're doing. So every year, even though they're building up what the other students did, they're still kind of starting from, using their own wisdom and vision to kind of create something new. And so this is kind of like, this is part of a presentation that they gave to some adults. And one of the things that we do is I try to allow them the opportunity to utilize their voices. So they do a lot of presentations at the university. They do presentations at the school, if it's gardening conferences, and it kind of allows them to grow. But also I think it allows other people to see like, oh man, these kids from Southeast, they got something going on. They have something to say. And they recognize things, similar to what Coy said. They know what's going on. They might not have the language, but they know what's going on. So similar things. And I want adults and other people to kind of see that and recognize that. So you'll see some more stuff. So this is like their vision for 16th Street. This is all them. All I did, I don't think I typed it up. One of the students typed it up. I may try to do a sweep for grammatical errors, but this was their vision. They want to build their business. I'm starting on bullet number 2. They want to build their business and pass it on to the youth behind them that graduate. So they want to build it up to a level and pass it up to back then they were 11th graders, their current 12th graders. We talked about food apartheid and stuff like that. So they wanted to figure out a way to reduce food apartheid as much as possible. With this next one, they kind of kept it real. They want to make money, right? And they want to show how a youth-led cooperative business can be successful. I'm not going to read all of them, but these are like some of the thoughts that I was trying to get them to think about. And so we watched videos on, worker-owned cooperatives. We watched videos on food justice and the food apartheid. We read stuff and we talked about it and discussed it. And so this is kind of what they came up with from their wisdom. They kind of give you an overview of what microgreens are, right? And microgreens, anybody can grow microgreens, but the reason why I think they chose microgreens because it's a fast turnaround. We like 14 days and we're out the door, right? And so that's just a little bit of background on that. And so this tower holds each kind of layer of the tower holds 4 trays And there's 3 tiers to the tower, so that's 12 trays, and we have 3 of these now. We have UDC students that come intern with us, and they help kind of work with students to construct more towers. So we're at like 36 trays that we can produce at once, just like in these towers in this grow tent. And so when they kind of they were working on getting their pitch together, right? And so they were asking people for their presentation, help them scale out, um, what your investment, like buying a salad, can kind of do, right? I think their ultimate goal, at least for last year's group, is that they wanted to figure out a way to get their salads or get their veggies onto a store shelf, or get their veggies like out to not just individual customers, but maybe to a restaurant or something like that, and they were thinking about multiple ways on doing that, and they kind of identified, their target customers and things of that nature. So we talked about CSAs and vegetable prescription programs. So I was trying to throw a lot of like ideas out there to them and let them kind of like tweak it and figure it out. So this is like a real picture, actually. This is at this time period. I don't know what month this was, but they had made $817. They finished with more than this. This is like a snapshot of the Cash App that they created. But they were at $817, and they were, I'm sure Coy and Lo, you all can relate. At the beginning of the season, when you're working with young people, there might be like some skepticism as to like how this may taste, or is this gonna work, or do chickens really lay eggs, or whatever skepticism is. They had it with me like, yo, is anybody gonna really buy a salad, or do these really, whatever, and they looking at me with like the screw face, like, Mr. Brown, what we talking about? But after time, they're putting in the work and they're getting out there, and people are buying the salad. So, Cash App's coming in, boom, 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 like, and they're getting real feedback from students and staff. Like, oh, the salad is like legit good. Like, when's the next time you coming back? We have students, just random students coming down, like, can I get a salad, or can I just make a salad real quick? Or so this was cool. They doubled this amount at the end of the school year by May, but this was like a cool milestone for them to hit, just to see this. And it was definitely a fun process, like dividing up the money. That was like a whole thing. But we still like working on on that end of things. But it was fun. So this is a slide I kind of wanted them to put in there, because I think with programs like the ones that we all have, like Coy and myself have, we're like growing. We're gardening. I mean, we're teaching people how to garden, but essentially, I think we're gardeners of like the young people's minds in a way, And so we're planting tons of seeds. We're cultivating those seeds. We're watering the seeds. We're doing a lot. And at the end of the process, we're kind of we're able to bear the fruit, right? And the community is able to bear the fruit of what they've learned. You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted them to kind of know that y'all are becoming leaders, and it's important to like kind of recognize your voices and feel comfortable with sharing your voices, and so it's been like an amazing process to kind of see them grow and go through this process. And so this is Frederick Douglass. Everybody knows Frederick Douglass. He lived in Anacostia, and so the students thought it was fitting to end their presentation with a quote from Frederick Douglass. He lives like right around the corner from the school. I didn't even dive into this because we'll be working on this particular greenhouse this school year. But what the students are posing in front of is a larger hydroponics greenhouse that's right in the back of the school. That'll probably help us increase our production by maybe 4 times. And so it was almost done by this time, but we were just going out there kind of looking at the new systems. And these I learned a lot from these students. They taught me a lot. It was a humbling experience, definitely a healing experience for me, a learning experience. So I have a lot of gratitude just for being able to work with them. I think that's the last slide. Yes, the last slide.
Oh my goodness. You guys, this is just, it feels so good to watch both of your presentations because it's so inspiring what both of you have accomplished in your spaces. And also just like my heart is just like full, just and just so that everyone knows, I have eaten these salads. They're amazing. I've met a lot of the students. They are also amazing and just so involved and curious and also proud, and as they should be, of this work that they've done. And they're ready to hustle these salads out there and make it bigger. They own this. It's not like Xavier's business. This is the students who are owning this, which is really actually quite impressive. Yeah. So something, Xavier, that I also just love about the work that you've done at Anacostia, as probably everyone noticed, it's all indoors. You know, a lot of times we think about gardening with students and figuring out ways to get outside and to build things, but you've managed to create systems indoors in not a huge space, to teach about growing food and connecting to the food that we eat. Has there, like, I know that in some situations in parts of the city, sometimes we don't grow outside because it's going to take so long for the soil to be amended and everything. And so we choose to grow inside. But I'm curious, like, what inspired you to do things indoors at Anacostia?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that wasn't me. That's just like what I was given. And, you know, they were like, hey, this is the plan. It's funny, like when I started, I thought it was already set up. Like I thought everything was like put together. And then I realized, I was like, oh, they were like, you got to build it, you know, like you have to build a plane while you like getting in it, you know. So it was that type of vibe. So they told me about the system, and I was like, okay, we could, you know, whatever, you know, it's a tool. So I can make it work. But you know, I thought it was already set up. But you know, a week later, some guys pulled up in the U-Haul truck. It's like, hey, man, we got delivery for you. And I had to, you know, we cleared out the room, put it together, and kind of got I had a little experience. I'm a soil guy, but I had a little experience with like soil lift systems. And so once I learned the process, they're all pretty similar as far as the way they function. Um, we kind of got right into it and just started using it as a tool to teach the students. So yeah.
Yeah. And actually, like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your own background, because did you know anything about, I mean, it sounds like you knew a little bit about soilless systems, but how did you become a grower?
Yeah, like I the genesis. Are you talking about like the
Yeah, like
beginning?
I heard Corey telling his stories about how he kind of got
Yeah. Yeah,
plugged.
like I started like back in like 2012, 11, 12, something like that, I think. 10, yeah, 11, 2012. And so I'll give y'all a fast version, but like I was living in North Carolina. I came back home and I ended up taking a DC Master Gardener class. Well, no. I came back home and I was hanging out with my buddies in my neighborhood. I wasn't really doing, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next with my life. I was just trying to figure it out. And my father woke me up early in the morning. I think I may like had a hangover or something going to the club. But he woke me up. He was like, man, come plant some trees with me. I'm like, plant some trees? Let's do something. But I ended up dragging me out, and it was with Casey Trees. We planted some trees at Catholic University. I'll never forget it. It was like an amazing experience. It changed my life. I really enjoyed planting trees, you know? And yeah, we planted like, I don't know, 20, 30 trees, you know? And then after that, I took the DC Master Gardening class at UDC. And DC Master Gardening is kind of like a crash course. It kind of give you a little sample of a lot of stuff. And so I thought I knew something, but then when I wanted to learn more, and so I just like tried to find more farmers to like intern with. And I found a farm. I found Eco City Farm, like the OG Eco City Farm in Edmiston, with like Margaret and Christian and I can't remember some other people. I found them, and
Yep.
then I found this guy named Denzel out in this place called Cockeysville, Maryland, which is like north of Baltimore. And he has this farm called Five Seas Farm. Like Denzel's the ED of Baltimore Farm Alliance now. And so I would split my time between like learning from Christian and can't remember everybody else's name from Eco, but they were all like real. I may have been like one of their first interns from Christian, and going to these classes, these beginner farmer training classes that they used to have for Future Harvest, and then going on the weekends, going out to Cockeysville. So I was just in the ag. I was like a sponge, and I was trying to learn as much as I could about agriculture. I was just like obsessed. And some a friend of mine that I met along the way, he told me, and it kind of resonated with me. And he said, agriculture, or farming, gardening, whatever you're into, is not something that you get into. You get into, but it's something that gets into you. You know what I mean? And so like the spirit of agriculture was like, I was like locked in. Like I stopped going to happy hours. I stopped going to day parties. I was like gardening. Like, man, I don't want to hear nothing unless it's about cabbage, bro, okra and all that. I don't want to hear nothing about any Long Island iced teas or nothing. If I can't grow it, don't give it to me. So that's like I was like totally like locked in. And that was just like kind of like my journey of just like learning, meeting more farmers, traveling. But that's like the Cliff Notes version of I was just like in it all the way, you know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, I think a lot of us that got into this work weren't necessarily agriculture majors or horticulture. I mean, yeah, it's all about, it's really about wanting to learn and wanting to and being curious and seeing that. I like the way you said, you know, how you approach each season at like a blank slate, right? With the students, that it's fresh, that it's like a chance to restart, to rethink possibilities. And I think that is what attracts a lot of us also to this work. It's that like therapeutic nature of being able to have a fresh start. So both of you, I'm curious, actually, it can be sometimes hard in my experience to get students to connect with agriculture. There's a lot of barriers in play, some of which you mentioned, especially like not wanting to get dirty or feeling like it's not part of who they are. They don't think anyone in their family has ever, been doing this work, so why should they, or whatever. And so I'm curious about how you overcome some of those challenges with your students, and either of you can speak up on this a bit.
Yeah, I would say at least for me, now that it's like year 3, 4, we've been able to kind of like spread the message of agriculture through the school, and enough people have been able to like see what the previous group has done. So it's not like foreign to them anymore. They've come down to the lab, they've eaten a salad, they may have talked to their friends and be like, oh man, y'all are going here? Y'all going to botanical gardens? Are y'all going here? We've been able to like, set things up so they've been able to get paid. I think field trips do a good job. Having other people come in, talk to them, and having other we are like other Black farmers who are I guess closer to their age, so it doesn't feel too far away. Right, people are talking the same language, so all of those types of things play a part into it, and like a mixture of those things. So I haven't really run into that too much as of yet, because we're kind of like in this closed loop system where it's like we make sure that like the 10th graders know what's going on, 9th graders know what's going on. Hey, these 12th graders I'm working with, go, get some salads out to the 9th graders and talk to them, get some to the 10th graders. And so it's like, and then once people taste it, they've, I was gonna say they're bought in, so I haven't had that too much. Maybe when we first started we did, but now we kind of on autopilot. And I think people are like proud of what they've been able to create, and I think the other students kind of see the glow up a little bit, like that. Man, they made a salad and it's good, it tastes good, they look like they feeling good about themselves, and somebody else likes it. So yeah, that's what I would say. Yeah.
Coy, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, he nailed. That's been my experience as well. Like now, I mean, the first couple of years, it was a little tough, but now they expect it, and so they're calling me like, "Oh, when are we gonna cook? When are we getting the honey?" I was like, "Oh wait, hold on. You in 10th grade? You just started. Relax. I gotta teach you first." But yeah, it's part of the school's culture now. So
Yeah.
it's good now. But yeah, I think also early on, again, the school garden program was really great because they would have meetups and they would have activities that we could implement in our class. And so one thing that I just did today is making garden mandalas. And so like I kind of like slowly bring them into it, and just like get them appreciating nature in a creative way. And then, as you get more used to being outside and the bugs and whatever and flowers and all that stuff, you're like, okay, now I'm ready. And these kids have already been like, yo, when are we planting? I want some spinach. I want to make some spinach dip. Hold on, we'll get there.
That's great. Yeah, no, I mean, hands-on immersive opportunities are really key to like building a culture at school and also keeping kids engaged and excited and wanting to learn because it doesn't feel like learning, right, when you're having a good time. I'm curious about what both of you think your work, what role it plays in the broader agricultural community of DC and beyond. What impact would you like to see here in DC and for your students or for the local movement? Because it's really important, right? Like, I often think about how, young folks in more rural areas that are more agricultural usually have like 4-H and other programs that encourage them to move down that pathway and to have pride in it and to relate to it. And so it's a very clear pipeline, but that's not always apparent here. And so I'm curious about what you think your role is in that work and what you would like to see happen.
Yeah, that's a good question. So this past school year, we got students. I had like to interview some students to come, and most of the students come from Anna, but this was the first year we had a student come from Coy School, come from any school, but it came from Coy School. And the young lady was like, I go to Friendship Tech Prep, and I interviewed her. She said, I go to Friendship. I work with Coy, and I was like, okay, she worked. That means when she said she name dropped Coy, I was like, okay, she knows what she's going to come with, like some knowledge, right? And then I interviewed her, and she was like really talking that talk. Like I was like, okay, damn, Coy did a good job. She was dropping all these terms, and she's like, yeah, we do this, we do that, we go on field trips, boop, 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 bop, bop, bop. And then she came in, and she was a beast. Like she was like really kind of like raised the bar, I think, with the other students. Because it's like, I feel like she was kind of showing them up a little bit because she was coming on time. She was ready to work. She was like, yeah, I'm on it. And so all that to say, I think like that was kind of a pipeline right there to give her a different experience. Like she went through the Friendship Tech experience, and then she was able to put to the test what she learned from Coy those years and come to a whole new place where she didn't really know anybody and really put it to the test. One thing I would love to see is like, I would love to see UDC do a better job of connecting some of their ag degrees, if the students want to go that route, directly to like what Corey's doing, what I'm doing, Lola, what you're doing, really connect it and allow the students to kind of see like, all right, I can do this. Also, like some of the beginner farmer trainer programs, it would be nice. I mean, most of them kind of trend older to like people in their 20s and 30s, like adults. But it would be dope to see like if a student's really into agriculture, how they can like, make that next step into some early beginner farmer training classes, you know what I'm saying? Or if people want to be on the policy side, like how can students get those internships on the policy side? Or if they trying to, be an ag entrepreneur, how can they, so I would love to see like those doors opened up for the students a little bit earlier. Because a lot of them have ideas and a lot of them are they're all seeing the world from a different like vantage point than we are, right? And so like a lot of people are like, hey, we need more grocery stores, but a lot of them are going to the corner stores and stuff like that. And these corner stores are perfect places that you could have vegetables, or you could have a salad, you could have a healthy sandwich, right? Because these are places even more than a grocery store where they're going to get something quick. And so it's like they can tell you like, hey, there's this store on this 19th in Minnesota, this store right here, and this is where everybody goes. So why not, they can help you build out the ecosystem. So that's what I would say is like create these pathways where that like directly connect, so students can kind of continuously grow and like keep that knowledge going. So yeah, I've
Yeah.
thought about that.
A little bit of what I hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like there needs to be maybe some coordination with adults and more coordination, more communication between the youth and adults who are in this work, because there is a network, and in many cities it's like this, of urban ag folks who are adults, but how much is that cross communication happening in order to offer those opportunities, and also for students to see where they could land and end up later on. So yeah, you're giving me some ideas. All right, Coy, what do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with what Xavier was saying, was reaching the younger folks around high school and college age, because I know causes, which comes out of UDC, this is the College of Agriculture, Urban Sustainability, and Environmental Science, but it's a grad program. So if they had an undergrad, that'd be great. And one of the big things is certificates are real big in high schools, and you want kids graduating with certificates. And for the Urban Ag Pro, there aren't that many. Like for my program, there isn't a certificate that the kids get. And like they could get a composting certificate, they could do the Master Gardener certificate, they could even get beekeeping. So they could get those 3 certificates, and that would open them up. But Aussie again hasn't really done that. Like they recognize as a pathway that urban ag is a thing, but they haven't done the certificate part, which I think would be helpful moving forward. And just another thing that I feel like I haven't done well yet, but I'm every year I'm going to keep on trying to do is really develop the co-op idea as like an alternative way of organizing business. Like, yeah, you can make money, but let's make it in a way that's cooperative, not competitive, not like this cutthroat uh, economic system we got right now. We can still make money, but we can also do it cooperatively, which changes not only like our mindset with other people in business, but it also changes how we interact as a group, which I think would have some really big impacts socially.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's already a lot of competition in high school, right? Like, why not create more cooperative work around something that is naturally necessary to have cooperative work? Sorry, I live on a busy street, and that was people racing. Um, um, so I guess another question I have for both of you is, have you noticed the impact of the work that you're doing with these students in ag work and in gardening work on other subjects, or for your students in other areas of the school?
That's a good question. I would say for sure on my end, because I put the students in positions to do a lot of public speaking, like talking about the work that we do, whether if it's like to a potential customer or it's at a event or a function or something like that, that I would say like their public speaking skills and their like confidence goes up. I didn't realize like when I first started, like how like it's a lot of students that have low self-esteem, but the confidence is like low. I didn't realize that. And so the more they have the opportunity to kind of talk, I think to hear themselves talk, to create something and talk about it and then get positive feedback from the community, I think you kind of see students like self-esteem, confidence go up, like belief in themselves go up. So I would definitely say like public speaking. I've seen that like when you see the students you might catch them giving a presentation for another class or something like that. Or a teacher might come, because I'm not a teacher, but a teacher might stop by and be like, hey, such and such did a great job on their presentation. I would say that for sure has been something I've recognized.
Yeah, I guess it's been different for me because I usually hear it from other people rather than the students. So I'll hear from like a parent say, "Oh, uh, my student said we shouldn't buy this in the grocery store because what he learned in your class." I was like, "Oh, he didn't say that in class," but taking that knowledge outside and then having other people tell me about it is great. And now that we've got this partnership with Soul Track, which is this organization that's their whole thing is to get people of color out in nature. And so we've got kids kayaking. They helped us do camping. We're doing the hiking. And so then for them to like have that, I had that one moment when I went camping and saw stars for the first time, and then that was like it was over. Then to like have that experience, which I probably maybe I kind of accepted that, maybe I won't witness it in real time, but somewhere down the road, maybe they'll never tell me, but somewhere down the road, they'll be like, oh, I remember when I kayaked for the first time on the Anacostia, or I remember when I went camping, and that'll change their perspective, or maybe they won't litter as much, or maybe they'll, instead of throwing an apple core in a trash can, they'll compost it, or at least put it next to a tree or in a bush or something like that. So I've kind of accepted that maybe I won't I don't know, see how they're taking my what they're learning in my class until a little bit later. But it is sweet. So when you talked about Latrice coming in there talking about, I was like, oh, she didn't even tell me that she was in the program, and she definitely talks her stuff. So I'm surprised she didn't hit my DMs up saying, oh, you should have seen me, Mr. Coy. But I'll take it.
She was trying to keep it to herself.
I'm a messenger tonight. I'm gonna let her
You
know.
should definitely.
Now she did a great job at Rooting DC. She did an amazing job at Rooting DC, and she was her mom. I think her sister. They were like right in the front row. So she was selling salad. She did like an amazing job at Rooting DC. It was like I was inspired because similar to what Lola said. Like I didn't even have to do anything. I mean, I helped set up the day before, but they were on autopilot. Like I was like sitting back and just like watching them, So it was that felt good. I was like, yeah.
That means you've given them good guidance. Honestly,
Yeah.
that looks good. That's a sign of your skill. I'm curious about y'all's inspiration as well. Like you both talking about the Black history of agriculture in our country, and history, present, future. I'm curious, like, who are some of the folks that you look to for inspiration in this work, and that keep you going, really?
I love what Corey's doing. Like I think I follow a bunch of people on Instagram, so I think what Corey's been doing over the years has been inspiring. There's tons of historical figures. But it's a lot of people that I know from like Lola, yourself. So a lot of the homegrown heroes like inspire me to keep doing stuff and to keep going. I can't really think about anybody really outside of the DMV, like our area. I think we have a very strong urban agriculture scene, and there's always something new emerging and brewing and stuff like that. So so I think like folks like yourselves that are in the region, like all the same, a lot of same people. So that inspires me, seeing what folks are doing and coming up with, and like we haven't stepped into the world of chickens yet. So that's inspiring to hear, like y'all, foyer in the chickens. I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. Like I'm like, dang, maybe we could like stuff like that.
You don't need to rush. You don't need to rush that.
So I would say like the homegrown heroes, like for me, honestly, like inspire me, because we're all going through like the same stuff, locally.
If you could invite someone from history to come and speak to your class this month, is there someone you really would like to bring in?
Oh yeah. So for me, it would probably be maybe Ella Baker. I think she would be good to talk to the students. And then maybe Ella Baker, maybe even Marion Barry. I think he would be cool because a lot of the students benefit off of like some of the programs and ideas he came up with. So I think that would be cool. And maybe George Washington Carver. Like those three.
And for those in the audience who are not familiar with Ella Baker and Marion Barry, I assume most people know who George Washington Carver is. I feel like that's a universal. Can you give a quick description of Ella Baker
Yeah.
and
So
Very?
Ella Baker, she was like the matriarch of like the civil rights movement, I would call her. She helped. I said her because her leadership style, and because she worked with I mean, essentially youth, like young people. I mean, the people who started SNCC they were young. I guess you consider them youth. They were younger than all of us, and she was able to kind of. I read her biography. I tried to mimic her style, but she was able to kind of set it up where it, the young people were able to kind of cultivate and craft how they were going to do their social movement and stuff like that when they were going to Alabama and Mississippi. So she was like super integral, and she is like kind of like the most known unknown. She was involved in a lot of stuff, had a big impact, and she's probably your favorite favorite activist type of thing. And then Marion Barry was, mayor for life in DC, one of the kind of creators of summer youth employment program, which a lot of the students kind of benefit off of. I benefited off of. During his tenure, somebody came up with the urban ag bill. It's like back in like 1986 or something like that. So this is like back in the 80s where people were already thinking about utilizing vacant lots to do kind of like a lot of the stuff we're talking about now. When he was mayor, a lot of co-ops were being created. I think he would be a cool person. And then he has a street named after him now too. That's like right around the corner from the school. So it would be cool for the historical context.
Absolutely. Coy, what about you?
Oh man, I gotta have Gil Scott Heron. I got it. He's my compass for everything. I love the messages, and he had humor too. So definitely him. Fannie Lou Hamer for her work with Southern cooperatives. Those are the two. I mean, maybe this will get edited out, but Fred Hampton, just for his ability to connect people of different groups together. But yeah, those three, and his oratory skills too. Just I'd love to have them to speak to the kids, especially now. Like Gil Scott Heron, although he didn't really like being called the Godfather of Rap, he is the Godfather of Rap. And so, as big as hip hop is in the Black community, it would be nice for him to shine some wisdom or spread some wisdom. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like the importance of communication and the art of communication. Yeah. So we're coming towards the end here. Courtney and Emily, do we have any questions from the chat? I'm sorry, I haven't been looking at it as closely. I do see a Will Allen also in the list. Someone mentioned as who would be a great guest for our students. Let's see. Okay, I see a question here. There's a question around gaining more experience and training around gardening and farming in the area. This person lives in Montgomery County, Maryland. So do y'all have any recommendations for someone who's a home gardener but ready to take it to the next level?
Like a home gardener, not a farmer. I'm guessing if you already took DC Mass, DPR has some classes. Like Josh has some classes. I think would be like a good fit for like a home gardener. I would say. I think there's like a line where I would say like Eco and some of those farmer training programs, but they'll take you off into like another more intensive, commercially focused route maybe. But I think the classes that Josh has, if he still has them with DPR, they'll help you increase your gardening knowledge. And then I would say you can also go to YouTube and stuff like that, read books, but also just grow, and don't be afraid to kill some plants. I killed tons of plants when I started. So the more you grow, the faster you'll learn. And I would say volunteering at a garden. So volunteering somewhere, you'll be able to learn real fast that way too. If there's a school garden, if there's a place like City Blossoms or something like that, you get volunteering, you can learn very fast as well too.
Absolutely. And then you're also helping the community and making connections, and that's more important. And if you're not killing plants, you're not actually a gardener. Coy, any tips for someone in Maryland who's looking for, actually, I have a targeted question for you. Funding for community garden work. Do you have any tips for folks who need funding for their community gardens?
Yeah, there's a lot of grants out there. Whole Foods has some grants. Oh man, I'm kind of out of the grant game now that I don't have to worry about raising my own money. Seed, what is it? Seed? Oh man, I'm blanking on the names, but yeah, as I think of some, I can put them in the chat. But yeah, there's a lot of grants out there for gardens.
Yeah, I've seen some small grants also, sometimes from businesses, like certain large hardware chains sometimes have grant opportunities for greening your area. And I would say also look to community and neighborhood associations. Something we have here in DC are ANCs, which are the neighborhood commission for each sector of each ward. And oftentimes they might have some funds that are able to be spent on neighborhood projects. And so if there's anything like that in your community, I recommend checking out, hyper local funding. I think is great, because then they can see the impact of their investment. Okay. Let's see. I think we're actually coming to the point where it might be, we're getting towards the end here. Yes, thank you, Courtney, for adding that homeowners associations also have extra funds as well. Thank you for adding that piece. Yeah. And yes, Arlene, I see your link to kidsgardening.org. When I started gardening with children, that was the first place I went to. So it's a easy to access funding opportunity. Thanks you for sharing that in the chat. Yeah. All right. Well, I just got to say, I wish we could talk more, because I think you all have so much more to say, and I wish we could just spend more time together. But it is coming to the end of our chat tonight. Thank you, Xavier and Coy, so much for taking time this evening. I know you're both busy. It's the first week of school. We've got lots to do, and you still dedicated your Thursday evening to being with us here at the United States Botanic Garden and our amazing community online. I admire you both so much. I will continue to bug you forever about this work. And so thank you so much for the work that you do, and also for what you are doing for the future of our city.